So I just want to talk about some practical work we've done using a range of AI techniques for a large consumer beauty company, like a global, and really just trying to use AI to speed up what they do it's a personal care category, and it's a very, very innovative and fast moving category and growing category and getting, bigger very quickly, but there's a lot of pressure to innovate quickly, and I think what's happening in beauty is almost like akin to what's happening in fashion with Shein, where they're becoming algorithmic companies. So Shein's an algorithmic company, and it's really is having such a huge global impact on its competition, and I think that's the same's happening in starting to happen in personal care. So there's a lot of challenges. And the challenge with traditional innovation research is, apart from slow and expensive, is often I think it's been highly standardized and highly templated, so there's a lack of diagnostics. You don't actually know why something's a problem after quite extensive research. If you're doing the quant and qual, it's slow and inflexible, and what often happens is by the time the client gets to the end of the process, they're just left with a whole lot of questions. They're not really entirely sure and not entirely sure which direction to go in. And then finally, in personal care, it's a very sensitive topic. So the participants are also under a lot of pressure, especially in the qual, when they're being moderated by someone with perfect skin and they've got, skin issues. It's like a very difficult environment to open up. So those are sort of challenges with innovation research we looked to solve and improve on. So we came up with a method where we wanted to use have really great diagnostics, and we wanted AI to improve the process and speed it up. And of course we wanted you've got to have a happy client, otherwise an unhappy client is an unhappy life. And you need to be fast and flexible, and things need to happen in real time. And finally, the participants have got to be happy, because I think a lot of times in research, I think the participants sort of come last. We present them with lots of grid surveys. We highly template things and then wonder why there's so much survey fraud, because obviously click farms pick up on, this is like a link test. I know those, we can do those automatically. So I think a lot of the problems we've created in our industry are of our own cause. And a lot of it is around, I think there's a mistake around making things efficient and scalable, but forgetting the people you're talking to. So for our product, we had two hero concepts that the client already had, and we wanted to review the product ideas. We want to look at the ingredients, the language, the packaging, all those sort of things. It was for a large and new category in South Africa, and it's a highly emotive category. So that's sort of, I can't really say exactly what the product was or the brand. So the way we see our role at Hello Ara, that I co-founded with my co-founder's based in South Africa, is we see ourselves as orchestrating technology now. So we decided maybe not to go down the self-service route, because we thought that technology is changing so quickly. By the time you built a self-service tool, it could be out of date. So we felt that we want to orchestrate. We built some of our own tools, and we wanted to be more technology orchestrators. So for this problem, we created like a metaverse environment for the qual, because we just like doing that. Conversational AI is something we always do for surveys, so we always have the majority are open questions with some closed, and we've been doing that for 4 years, and in a previous life I did that for 8 years. And then beyond that, the things we want to experiment with the client was AI as an idea generator, and then AI as an analysis, which everyone does anyway, around summaries and things like that. And then the synthetic data, we use that as well to try and get this quick process. So here you can see that's what the qual environment looks like. That's one of the rooms. So it's sort of fun. People come in as avatars, they talk, and they generally feel relaxed and open up. Conversational AI, you will have heard a lot about. So we use that to get our rapid feedback. And then we did a lot of co-creation with a client. The client was actually in the qual groups the whole time, and then we had like a WhatsApp group. So this is like the process we did. So normally innovation, like detailed innovation work can go over weeks. In our case, we managed to compress it down to 11 days. But by having the client the whole way through the process, we managed to iterate, I guess, and go on a journey with a client. So by the time we get to analysis, we had we thoroughly tested and iterated, and everyone was in agreement in a very compressed time. So the idea, we started off with qual groups where we had the concepts, and from our initial discussions, then we tested with quant, and we actually tried to do this in real time. Initially, the vision was, like we'd have a qual group, and then we would have this chatbot launch, and then half an hour later, we'd actually have all our results. And the same with synthetic data, but that proved to be a little bit too much overload for a detailed conversation. So we used like every known AI technique around summaries and generating names. And so anyway, so after we did the quant, we'd go back into qual. And initially the idea was to go qual, quant, qual, quant, qual, quant, but we found that it took quite a while to evolve the ideas. So that's why we, gone from 5 to 6. We had like another 4 qual groups to fine tune and discuss more. And then the final, taking the top concepts of final quant and then our analysis. So it looks a lot, but it was very, very quick. And I think the really important thing was actually having, at the same time, we had a chat group with a client so we could discuss what was happening in the groups in real time, and we gathered that information as well. So that was sort of like the process. And this is just like what the metaverse environment looks. I can't play it. That's a shame. But that was going to be a fly through. So we designed this. I used generative AI to, I guess, design it, and it's got there's like a focus group room, and then there's an auditorium, and then there's like an exhibition centre at the front, and that's the space we use to do our qual. And we also have been designing sort of bespoke worlds, I guess. And so why qual in the metaverse? One, I think everyone should have heard of Zoom fatigue, like especially during COVID, when it's just really tiring seeing someone's cut off head, for hours on a phone call or during a qual group, and then trying to look attentive and interested, for 1 or 2 hours. It's like people just end up looking like this at the end, and so and we find in the metaverse there's just like a really, really high engagement. People open up because they've got an avatar representation. We can be very contextual as well. So in a previous talk, we modelled like a climate change scenario. So you're basically in the worst of climate change, or you're in this bounteous environment. This was like I think a year or so ago. So the actual environment people are in has a big impact on how they feel and think and how they present. So we're and then beyond all that, it's just like an affordable way of doing things. And then I guess chatbots everyone's heard of. We've been using these exclusively because we believe you cannot innovate if you're not letting people talk. And I think lots of closed questions, often you're measuring something you want to measure that has no interest to the people you're asking your opinion, but you're not actually letting them give their opinion. So we always use chatbots. And I think I can see slowly that's happening in the industry. There's more and more open, like a lot of the presentations talking about open data now, when previously not. It was more about templating and speed. And then the final part was synthetic data. So the initial idea was to actually take all the qual conversations and use that to train some synthetic respondents, and also for our idea generation. So I guess there's some technical people, a lot of technical people here. So we took the qual conversations and very quickly we used OpenAI embeddings to cluster everything and tag those clusters, and then basically take that data along with a lot of profile information and use that to create our respondents. Tried a lot of things, including the retrieval, the RAG, but I found that was way too specific. If you're trying to be creative and come up with things, I think RAG's just way too literal. It didn't work. So we tried and discarded that one. And so with the prompts actually going, I think the important thing is that the prompts we're using, they're like mini books, because I think the context window. There's a lot of people looking at things like RAG and things like that, but what is actually happening in the background is this context window about how much information you can send to, like something like OpenAI. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and soon, I think, it was Sam Altman's dream that your whole life story would be just one prompt, and because the context window is so vast, you really don't need any other databases. Comparing the synthetic data was difficult. I mean, to get any sense out of synthetic data. So we've got the conversational AI, you can see, and the other problem we had is the concepts are all really good. So to try and differentiate was difficult. But you can see with synthetic data based on qual, there was one or two words that are very emotive in the beauty industry, and if they were used in the brand or packet, it came up in the qual, if they used in the packaging or naming, instantly the LLM would go no. So you get those 60%. And so we had, from B to C down to, we had a lot of concepts in here. It was all just flatlined at 60 because if you mention that word, you get a bad score. So then, we trained it. I think what was important was to try and train it on the why. So why do you like this brand, or why do you like this name? I think that it got smarter and more differentiated the data when you started feeding it some decision making, so it could make decisions. And then finally, I didn't get a chance to experiment with, but that symbol is, I think that what was really missing was the direction of travel. So we had the conversation with a client ongoing with these groups, and things would evolve. Sometimes a name would be, for political reasons, you can't use this, or someone tried that. This is a better name because X, and that conversation evolved over time. Their AI had no concept of travel with time, so that was an area which really interests me. So if you go, here's A, they got to B, here's C, what do you think D is going to be? I think then it's going to be more powerful. So I really annoyed the client by here's these aren't the actual names, but it's here's 1,000 names. Oh, I don't like those ones. Okay, here's another 1,000 names. I'm not so sure. Here's another 1,000. It's this is really annoying me. So I think I learned that. I think the thing with AI, it can overproduce and annoy clients and waste time. So it can generate lots and lots of ideas, but not necessarily great ideas. And at these, we got better over time. But again, it was we need to feed it that direction, the direction of travel, and then it gets better. When we evaluated what we did, obviously AI does not replace human listening, so summaries are just too clean. I guess everyone uses ChatGPT to summarize it. They're just too clean. It has, I don't even like to use the word biases, it's just words that are stronger or more mentioned in its database, and it focuses on those. So often it might find something not important and blow that up in the summary. They're very clean. And I think the names that were coming up lack brand relevance because, again, we needed a lot more client information. You need to know the structure of your organisation, you need to know the politics, you need to know what's happened before, and all those things actually matter when they're coming up to a name that's going to get accepted by the management, I guess. And the vision was people were in this qual coming up with ideas, and synthetic data would process these ideas straight away and they say, well, actually your idea is 8 out of 10. But we sort of found that it was just too much for that's fine to work in the background, but to bring it into a group, so we didn't do that. And I think the other thing with synthetic data is it took me weeks, 3 weeks, to try and get them to make that sensible. That's not just a quick win. And that was 3 weeks of pain and suffering, and oh my goodness, I've got nothing to present because this thing is just ridiculously bad. So it took 3 weeks to make it work. On the other hand, the summarization is useful when you're doing lots of groups, the qual groups, because there's just so much going on. It was helpful of vanilla. We generated a lot of ideas quickly, and then over time we got better at it. So eventually it came up with better names, and it could come up with some interesting ingredient ideas. It just took time. It wasn't instant. I guess those were the positives, and so the client was really happy. I mean, a lot of the AI was in the background, but like it was just a very quick turnaround, and I think we managed to iterate the whole way through the process. So at the end, there was no more questions, and we'd arrived at our decision in a very short pace of time. But what we'll do next time, I think it's just you need more of that client data and need to know more of I hate to say that, more of a politics within the client, because if you're not in line with the politics, like it doesn't matter what you come up with, it's not going to work or not going to be accepted. I mean, of course you can challenge, but realistically, you're going to make life difficult. I think synthetic data can narrow down to promising stuff. It just takes time. So it took us like 3 weeks before it would start to become useful, and by which stage, the project was finished. And I think the other thing we had is like the concepts were so good, they're all scoring in the 90s on a quant panel. It's just it didn't really give much room for experimentation. I guess it was a big challenge, I guess. And then finally, we'll be adding eye tracking into the metaverse, so you can see what people are seeing on the packaging and the concepts, and see where they're looking, and just have that sort of like a combination of like where they're looking and what they're saying and what they're thinking. And that's what we do. I don't know if I spoke very quickly then. I did. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Questions?
I'm just curious, you said that you improved the synthetic data over time. I'm curious what you did to improve that, and is that something that, while perhaps on a project basis, it took a few weeks, but could you do it at a macro level so that it is more useful for similar things moving forward?
I think it's like, so I think it was the thing that throws it off is, I think you should see, even in just using it for summaries, that it'll often focus in on something that isn't maybe relevant or isn't like, relevant even statistically. So sometimes you've got to tell it not to do that, or you've literally got to remove some concepts from the data, like if I was using qual data, because otherwise it just keeps zoning in on that thing. And then the second one was just that realization you've got to explain to the LLM the decision-making process a bit more, but in more granular detail. So when I took the why did you say that from the quant, the chatbot, and put that into the synth routine, it got better at making decisions and became more granular. So I guess for me, that was the first time I've done something at scale with synthetic data, and those are my learnings. You need to tell it how to make decisions, and you just need to watch out for those, like everyone talks about bias, those things that just completely it zeroes in, and try and remove those from the data so it just doesn't completely skew.
Further questions? Anyone? No.
Thanks, mate. That was a really good presentation. I'm interested in your 3D worlds that you create and the impact that they have on people's answers. And I wondered whether the avatars people choose to change their opinions as well. Have you ever done any research on that?
Yeah, so the avatars, we had it was a bit of a strange episode, but we had someone who'd been through a gender change I think they were mid-gender change, and they appeared as what they wanted to be. So I think, and then people were very accepting about that. So I think your avatar representation is true with gamers. It's who you who you want to be, or what you see of yourself. So I think that means people are a lot more open and relaxed. And in a weird way, a lot of people, and I think especially young people, feel that they're more themselves when they're using their avatar. It's strange, but I think there is research on that as well. So that was the avatar question. Yeah.
Anyone else? Maybe a related question about the setup you've used for the metaverse environment and for users to access the qual study.
Yeah. So like, so we built those environments through like a thing called spatial, and then we actually use social media targeting to recruit, because we tried a panel, but then when you actually meet the people in a qual environment from a panel, it just doesn't work, because we had some very strange and worrying experiences by doing that when you actually meet. So yeah, we use social media, and then we have like a chatbot that does all the screening, and then we schedule a meeting, and then people get invited into the metaverse environment. So, and then we generally have about 10 minutes like warm up, so people can move and change their avatar and things like that, and get comfortable, and then we start the session.
Questions? Perhaps a follow-up, because you talk about the adding eye tracking maybe, so there would be an in-headset experience.
No, that would be, we would just like literally, because we don't use like goggles for this, it's all like gaming, so we just use the camera to do the eye tracking. Yeah, and we like just traditional shelf tests and things, but we also want to use the eye tracking to optimize like metaverse environment as well, which we're doing,
Yeah, so there wasn't this boundary with the headsets.
No, we didn't use, like, we started off, I bought those things like when they came out, but no, the adoption's too low and it's too difficult. So we literally just click on a link. The only thing we make sure they're using a desktop and not a mobile, so it's sort of like a bigger screen. That's all, yeah.
Yes.
I've got a bit of a follow-up question on the recruitment piece. Can you talk a bit about the conversations you've had with clients around that? Because just thinking through representation and technology and who's on social media and how you recruit, is it that the audience that in this instance your client's looking for is easily reachable through those mechanisms, or are there wider, what's your thinking around representation of the individuals and the inputs that are coming in and evaluating the concepts?
I mean, like, I guess for these call groups, like the client might have 8 or 10 groups of people they want to speak to. So then, like, we just have to do our best and screen using like Facebook and Instagram campaigns, but we'll chew through like a lot of people to get to the right groups. And then they've got to, like, because we're doing a lot of work in South Africa and Africa, and then we've got to make sure they've got a good internet connection. Then we've got to schedule groups when there's no load shedding, all those sort of things. But we find that the social media is really good. It's just a lot more work than using a panel. But the social media target, I mean, most people are on Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp. It's just, you just need to be clever around the targeting. So like we're trying to find people on higher income, we would target like, you know, influencers that would appeal to those groups. That type of sort of targeting. Like you're really targeting people and their interests, and you know the demographics like are okay, but it's mainly like we're targeting around interest. Yeah, and then locations, so then you can, you can target more affluent suburbs or less affluent suburbs. You can do that also on the Facebook targeting. So it's sort of like location and then interests, and then demographics. Like, yeah, isn't so accurate.
David, thank you very, very much.